Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to IEM Gyeonggi. I'm Achilles. Joining me now at the desk is going to be David Freak Turley. Freak,
Hello.
welcome to Korea. How are you?
I'm doing wonderfully. Thank you for the welcome. My fourth time here. Once as a competitor, now 3 times as a commentator. So, yeah, great to be here. My first time in this studio here. And I mean, honestly, very excited to cast these two teams, both with new lineups. Immortals a bit more changed, and considering we're the English stream, probably most of the people watching are big Immortals fans, at least if they're watching here. So, going to be a really fun time getting used to the new lineup they're going to bring into the LCS next year.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see, especially just announced, we have Ole starting as the support for Immortals. Really good pickup.
Yeah.
Former player for Hong Kong esports. You know, he was pretty good on that team, but unfortunately they never were able to make it to Worlds. Yeah. So now we're just going to get rid of that one because now it's all about Immortals, baby, for Ole. So we're going to see how they do. But, of course, speaking of the LMS, going up against J-Team coming out. So this is former Taipei Assassins.
Right.
And had a really strong start when they rebranded to J-Team, and then completely fell apart by the end of the summer split.
Well, exactly. It was really rough. They were the dominant team in the regular season. They won the regular season. You're going to see here this lineup. It was most of these guys were the same, except the fact that Achi is now in for Refrain in the jungle. Some people consider that to be an upgrade, although Achi was normally a top laner or a mid laner with this organization, as it were, sort of before. Also, Breaker here in an AD carry actually surprised me a little bit. I was expecting BB to be there, but apparently I didn't get the memo on that one. But that's going to be, I guess, their substitute AD carry. Of course, BB, many of you should know, is the Season 2 World Champion with Taipei Assassins, which is spiritually the same team here. It's sort of like that Curse-Liquid dichotomy where they just kind of changed organizations, but it's the same sort of core. But that's going to be the lineup here in this one. And yeah, it's I guess now in this case, 2 new players on this lineup. And J-Team hoping that they get better clutch performances. With a team that won the regular season, you would have hoped they'd win the best of 5. They had basically 2 chances to qualify for Worlds. Either you win the LMS Finals or you win the LMS Regional Qualifier for the 2nd slot. They choked in both of them, so we saw both Flash Rolls and AHQ go. And, well, now, J-Team, here's your next chance to show that you are strong and the LMS itself is strong as well.
Yeah, and I think that that's something really big to talk about is that the LMS is strong because this last season has really been lackluster for them. Flash Wolves and AHQ especially making it to Worlds, still having really poor performances, especially for Flash Wolves. We did see them at IEM Oakland where they looked a bit stronger, but in the end they fell in a Game 5 bout against Unicorns of Love, who came out on top. But now over on the red side of the screen, of course, it is Immortals, as you can see, always placing high, never making it out of playoffs, never advancing beyond that point. Their first international showing here in Korea, so pretty much one of the biggest stages that you can go to for your first international event. So going to be a lot of pressure on these guys, especially for these rookies coming out, such as Dardoch, who has never played internationally as well.
Sure, yeah, it's going to be interesting for Dardoch. I mean, he was one of the players where he came out of Challenger and there was a lot of hype about him, and he actually lived up to the hype, and he was a very strong performer for Liquid. Now, there were maybe behavioral issues. They benched him for a short time. Then they eventually traded him away at the end of the year because they didn't think it was going to work with him. But Immortals were like, we're happy to pick him up. We think we have the coaching staff to make this player work with our organization. And essentially, Liquid and Immortals just traded junglers, with Rainover going over to Liquid. And honestly, I think Immortals can do a very good thing here with Dardoch. I think he will be a very strong competitor. He's never really slowed down as far as his impact goes, and it should be a good thing overall for Immortals.
Yeah.
Now, you had also mentioned rookies, plural. Cody Sun, their AD carry. If you don't know who he is, formerly known as the Massacre 8 or TM8. I've cast him in the North American Challenger Series before. And I was like, okay, so this is your first international tournament. Like, you just joined an LCS team. Are you nervous or anything? Like, you're up against a former world champion in BB, assuming that he was going to be starting. And he's like, oh, no, I've played a world champion before. I played against Piglet in any Challenger. It was fine. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, good luck.
It's good confidence to have coming in. So you don't want to be cocky though. So, but confidence is a good thing to have when you come into a tournament like this. But no, I mean, the Massacre, Cody Sun, whichever he wants to be referenced as. I'm guessing it's Cody Sun at this point.
It is.
I think that he's always been like a strong mechanical player in Challenger. I have also cast him a couple times. I remember he was in the HGC Ascension tournament that Team Liquid ran last year.
Right.
So he's been around for a while, but finally getting that big break. And we're kind of seeing more and more of that with Dardoch coming in, with Golden Glue being a starter on Team
back
Liquid.
Again in the LCS, essentially.
Yeah, we're seeing these guys that have been like floating around Challenger for so long, finally getting their spots. Zig is another huge one to mention on Phoenix One.
Right, exactly. It's so interesting seeing these players that are like roughly the 10th or 12th best player in their role domestically. And it's like, well, there's 10 LCS spots. So either you get lucky and you get on one of those teams because they like you more than the other guy who's fighting for your spot, or you stay on Challenger for a while. And you're right, we've seen these bright points. We've had players like Dardoch, who became, I think, unquestionably top 3 in their role in the region. Good for him. You had players like Moon, who were Dardoch's contemporary, and I thought similarly skilled as a player, and didn't make that transition nearly as well. And we saw a very lackluster performance for him in his LCS splits. So it's come and go. Stixxay was another example of someone who did show up very well in his first split on CLG, went to MSI, got like all team AD carry when it's like, yeah, it's all of Royal Never Give Up, and sorry, it's actually going to be, you know, the AD carry for CLG instead. The Chinese fans went for it. So, yeah, I'm kind of hoping to see if Cody Sung can do that himself as well. Generally speaking, Challenger series AD carries are all very similar.
Yeah.
It's hard to differentiate them because you just don't see them kind of stand out until you get onto sort of bigger team scenarios. Challenger's kind of a bit more of a clown fiesta in a way. So, yeah. Immortals has had very little time to gel together. I think, you know, it's going to be a bit tough, but maybe Cody can show up and it'll look big for him.
Yeah, that's the thing that I have to worry about the most is that, you know, Ole just getting announced yesterday, being signed, you know, maybe a few days ago. These guys have only had maybe a day and a half to really practice together and get that synergy. Fortunately, though, despite, you know, Ole being Korean-born, he has played in multiple locations and speaks English fluently. So that is definitely going to help with the communication, you know, not just in the bot lane, but across the board for when it comes to their macro for Immortals. So I think that it might be an easier fit than you know, if they had picked up a different Korean support. So that's definitely going to help them out a lot.
Right, I totally agree. And especially with the reports of his English being so good, that is a huge help that they can pair together. But, you know, he's still with a truly rookie AD carry here with Cody Sun, and that just, there are so many ways that it could be terrible, and that's kind of the way it is. And I don't mean that as like, hey, let's all sell Immortals short, but like, it would be very easy for Immortals to suck this year, right? What if Dardoch is super toxic? And you know, he has that reputation. He's earned it himself by his actions. So maybe the team implodes around Dardoch. Maybe Cody can't hack it, right? Maybe Ole just can't find that coordination with him. Like, these are totally possible situations that can happen here. And we've seen all the high-profile top laners get picked up in North America. Flame, of course, one of them, but what if Flame can't handle those guys? He was over in China and okay, and then on Longzhu was okay, right? Like, it didn't feel like he was incredible, and so there, again,
he didn't really do much. He just got to, he sat.
Right. So there.
He'd show up to the studio and sit in the back room and just be like, drinking tea and
and you know just being Flame and being highly attractive and having a term named after him, which is dominating your lane opponent so hard that you're up 100 CS by the first 20 minutes. The Flame Horizon is from him, and we'll get to see him in just a few minutes. And yeah, he was. It's interesting. I'm going to kind of step back a bit. There's a breed of players that I always think is very interesting. That in the first few years of a game, there's players that show up and are really, really good for a specific reason. So, like, I think of old Gambit Gaming or Moscow 5 back in, like, the Season 2 era when they were dominant. And it's that these players, they understand something intuitively about the game that no one else understands yet. That they just latched onto a skill set or a rule of thumb, and it was correct. And they were like, I am the only top laner who understands how to manipulate waves properly. Hi, my name is Flame, and I'm going to crush everybody in lanes forever. Because I just get the unspoken rules of top lane League of Legends that no one else does. And then over the years, everyone's like, oh, here are these things Flame is doing. I can learn from that. Okay, well, now I can do it as well as you, but I also know these other things, right? Yep. And I've learned everything else, and now Flame gets eclipsed. And this has sort of happened, where he went from arguably the best top laner in the world, or the top laner anyone had seen up to a certain point in his career, and now he's, has been a bench warmer for a lot of his last year. So, I'm always intrigued by players like that because it means that they're very smart. They key in on something very quickly, but they've got to be able to learn the rest of the skill sets afterwards. And him now getting a starting spot once again, he's got to kind of prove that he's got those skills.
Sure, and I mean that's really going to be the definer if you're going to be a strong professional player in pretty much any esport. Can you adapt? Like, sure, it's like great if you're really good in this meta, you hone in on like what is the best thing.
Yeah.
But when the patch comes out, if you can't transition, then you're ultimately going to fail.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a huge point that we have to look at and see whether or not Flame and just in general all of these teams that have had roster shakeups are going to be successful, because it's the same thing with J-Team. Having Achi come in the jungle.
Yeah, a mid-top laner.
Like having this major transition how is that going to work out? Because last time I saw a mid laner start playing the jungle, that was Arc second, and he did a good job, but it didn't really work out in the end.
He's like 1v5ing.
I don't know. I don't know what how that's gonna affect J Team as they get ready to come into this one.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. We're just getting the players into the lobby, and then we'll be ready to get this underway and dive into the pick and ban. So, I mean, what do you expect to see anything different than we saw in Game 1? Because I know you're watching in the back room.
Yeah.
Game 1 was a little bit interesting from the side of Samsung's draft. As Papa put it, it was kind of like just the same. Like we didn't really see much differentiation. It's early still.
It's understandable.
The only thing that we saw was in their bans, which was getting rid of that Ivern because they knew that Vega wanted to bring out those new picks. Do you expect that with these two squads coming in, we're going to see some of those crazier picks? Because obviously the LeBlanc and the Syndra, the Ryze, like those are things that are going to be taken off the board. But maybe the Ivern's available. Do you think that comes out?
Sure. So for what it's worth, right, we are on 6.23. So 6.24 is the live version. So like the small nerfs to Ivern, the little changes to LeBlanc, the Riley's nerf being actually really big one. It hit Victor hard, by the way, the Riley's nerf 624. So Victor's still top tier and great. Crown got to play that champion. As far as what I think people are going to bring out, I think Immortals almost more so are going to be the ones to innovate better because, so the reason being is a team that keeps their lineup together, and I'll use like CLG or TSM as an example. I'm going to keep using NA teams because that's what I know. Teams like that are taking a break right now for the most part. These players are probably playing some solo queue. Maybe they know what's going on, but they're not really scrimming a lot together.
Yeah.
Right? The last competitive event TSM played was IEM Oakland, which was on the previous season anyway, so who cares? Whereas a squad like Immortals are having to sign all new players, which means they are scrimming anyone they can, saying, hey, Dardoch, let's see how you play with us, right? I mean, they're building around what Pobelter, and I'm trying to think if there's anyone else even remaining from the lineup.
Nope, just Pobelter.
It's just Pobelter. Now, they were going to keep Huni until about 2 weeks ago when he got the offer from SKT, so they were going to build around Pobelter and Huni, and then, things started changing. So those guys were scrimming, and they kept cycling in, like, what's the new talent going to be? Are we going to play with Dardoch? Are we going to play with Cody? Are we going to play with Ole? People like this. Now they got to try out Flame, and he passed the tryout as well. And so a team like Immortals is scrimming really heavily. And, of course, they're scrimming on live, essentially, playing in when they can. Maybe North American Challenger teams hoping to, qualify for NACS, things like that. And these teams are scrimming, and they're going to be more up-to-date with the metagame, with what's popular, with what's strong. And, yes, it's, the LeBlanc's up there. If you're good at Katarina, she's really insane. We know Rek'Sai is good, and Dardoch can play that champion, etc. The Rek'Sai, the Elise, the Lee Sin, they're still great. And, okay, they didn't really change. Courage of the Colossus made a lot of the same junglers still remain the top junglers. Yeah. So, some things didn't really change. But generally speaking, I would say that, I don't know what J-Team's been up to, right? Okay, some of these are slightly newer additions and whatnot, but a lot of these guys have already been with the organization. Achi was already with TPA/J-Team for a while. He's just role swapping. And okay, maybe they had a scrim with him to figure out they wanted to play with him over Refrain instead. They wanted this to be an upgrade, but I don't know that for sure. Yeah. I don't know how long this was sort of in the plans for. So if I had to pick a team that was better prepared, I would say it's Immortals. But that's like based on the fact they changed their roster, they must have scrimmed more.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I think it's going to be it'll be interesting to see how they're going to mesh with this first showing.
Right.
And I really hope that the fans at home of the squad don't just judge them on this one performance.
It's a best of one. What do you mean?
That is so indicative of how they're going to perform for all of LCS.
100% exactly correct.
No, so take everything with a grain of salt here, guys. It's not going to be. It's not going to be all just. Pretty flowers and victory.
I mean, but to be fair though, we are on the internet and. The internet loves to do more than anything is overreact to everything you possibly see.
What?
No, just kidding. The internet's right about everything all the time.
They never lie.
Never lie. Never exaggerates. No one lies on the internet. You're absolutely right about that.
Everyone is kind.
Everyone's super friendly. Oh, I have never had to mute anyone on Twitter.
There's no harsh words. Reddit is a wonderful place.
Of course, and Twitch chat never memes. There's no copy pasta.
Nope.
It's all original content.
No Kappa Prides.
No.
Now it's just spamming.
I think my favorite emote is actually Cool Story Bob.
Story Bob.
It's just Bob Ross. It's just Bob Ross waving.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I actually I discovered a lot more Twitch emotes recently because I managed to break the keyboard app of my tablet. So I have a little Amazon Android tablet, and I accidentally basically patched to too new a version of the various apps in the thing because I was using a third-party app store, and so now the keyboard app won't pop up. I can't type on my tablet anymore.
That seems like a problem.
So so I can at some point factory reset the thing. I just haven't yet. So I can only use emotes when I watch Twitch. thankfully I'd already downloaded that app, and so like I'll watch Search As or somebody, and I literally cannot type, and I'll just start.
So you have to communicate through Twitch hieroglyphics, basically.
Exactly, Twitch hieroglyphs. What's also nice is I happen to be, I guess I have like automatic substitutions to all of TSM's channels. I don't know exactly why, but I think someone at some point there was like a deal with Twitch, and they just gave a couple of rioters like giant sub packages. So I'm subbed to like Dyrus and Oddwood and Bjergsen and all that.
So you get all of their emotes as well.
Right, exactly. So I have like columns and columns and rows of emotes. I didn't realize there's like 300 native emotes in Twitch chat in the first place.
Is that many?
300 is a small exaggeration, but like it's at least 100. There's at least 100 native emotes in Twitch. I'm pretty sure.
And only like 8 of them get used.
Right.
On a regular basis. You don't see that much diversity.
No, exactly. And so that's why I can't type. So I'm just like I'm scrolling. I'm like, I've never seen these before, and I'm like, there's a Bob Ross emote. Oh, it's called Cool Story Bob. Spam, 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 send.
I need to explore my Twitch emotes now.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure on the desktop app as well, you can like click the little emoticon button and it pops up and you can choose your emoji. But certainly the only way I can type is by actually pulling up a list of emotes, and thankfully you can just put a button or push a button in it and it pastes out. But so today I learned
you can just develop your own language.
Yeah,
right. Nothing but just Twitch emotes, and everyone knows like, oh, this combination means this. It's almost like Morse code.
Yeah.
With like two Bob Rosses is like an
two
L.
Brahmas, hello.
Yeah. Like one Bob Ross is an I, and then 2 is an L, and you just like figure out like a system, and then that's how you communicate. You don't need to type.
Great.
Yeah, Twitch emotes are good to go, man.
That's perfect. Yeah. So that's been a thing. Is learning all of that. I can use yay and nay. Those guys.
Oh, okay.
Recently. So like,
well, at least you can just do a really basic AMA if you're ever on your thing.
Give me true or false questions.
Yeah.
I'll reply in chat with red and green circles.
Just give them back like
Very
that.
Very festive.
Interesting. All right. Well, that's you should definitely factory renew your tablet at some point.
I will.
Because not having a keyboard seems like a problem. I'm in the process of working out my own Twitch emote. I finally got partnered on it.
Oh,
so
nice!
I'm trying to like work out like. Well, I'm like, oh man, now I have to make emotes and I have to have like a badge.
You'll need a Kilios W. Everyone needs a W emote.
Okay, I was actually going straight for the Gasm. I thought.
Okay, that's fine. Well, you get like 4, right? I don't remember how many you get like
I don't know how many you get the first time. I put because you have to have like the keyword approved first before you can do anything. So I put in for like 1 approval for Achigasm. So I've got that one in the works. I'm not sure what the picture is going to be for that one yet. Maybe we'll come up with something on this broadcast. But look at that. Looks like we are.
Caps tight.
Looks like we are in the pick and ban here for our second game of the day. J-Team versus Immortals. Twitch going to be taken off the board immediately.
Yeah, Twitch, I think, pretty unequivocally the strongest marksman in this patch, at least my consideration for it to be 6.23. Even on 6.24 after the nerfs, I think Twitch is still the strongest, but by less of a large margin. So far, it's them banning what I consider to be appropriate at the very least. And as I look for the button, turn my headphones down slightly. Syndra banned away as well. Yeah, it's so interesting that Syndra kind of... I can speak to like things I know about sort of Riot's design team because I work there, and Syndra was initially considered for nerfs, and then the thought was that her play rate went down a whole lot, and her win rate went down a little bit as well, and people seem to not be playing so much Syndra on high-level rank, and so we're like, maybe she's going to fall off. We don't really have a lot of pro games to consider. Turns out Syndra's still considered to be a premier champion, and when everyone comes back from the break, we might consider that for more. But yeah, Cassie P off the table as well. Also interesting to note as far as win rates are concerned, because I love statistics, and those are always fun. I
didn't know this about you, Free.
Yeah, stats are like my thing. And sometimes I'm good at them, sometimes I'm not. But the actual removal of Aegis of the Legion's Magic Resist Aura seemed to generally elevate most mages about 1% win rate. Which is actually a bit hard to parse, because at first it was like, well, everyone's playing Talon and Zed and they're bad at these champions because the assassin reworks. This will happen at the same time. And so we had to like find ways like, well, in games where they're not against assassins mid, which mages got the highest win rates, and like who is getting more. Like Orianna was a big winner, and we saw her in the previous game. LeBlanc actually ended up doing pretty well once people learned the champion. She ends up being a really premier mid laner. But yeah, there were a suite of mids who gained a lot of power, largely from Aegis being removed, but just in general from the landscape ended up benefiting them, because it wasn't all mages got better, because at a certain point you just remove assassins and they're all the same. So certain ones just happen to benefit from the landscape changing.
Well, I mean, that's just perfect, you know. More damage for Syndra is exactly what we needed.
Yeah, you know. At least you have the crazy Locket Shield, though, and one of the nice things is I think people stopped buying Locket and then realized that Locket was good and started buying it again because it now had just more power in the active. But that Locket Shield is actually insane. It's actually pretty ridiculous, and if you're a big AoE, even just any kind of a burst champion, right, because the Locket Shield decays over time, if the damage all comes in at once, you don't have any decay, you just get to block it right away, and champions like Orianna and Syndra tend to do damage all at once, and you can sometimes actually get really, really good Locket value out of that item. Either way, though, we do have Orianna up, Syndra gone, Rise off the table, really no surprise that these mid laners are all banned out. Fofo not going to get what he wants, and actually still high priority on the Ashe is interesting. And
yeah, I mean, we saw this come. We saw this come in Game 1. Ruler played it, didn't have the best showing on the Ashe, despite that being like one of the champions that he spammed all the time in the summer split. It was pretty much just Ashe and Sivir bot from him.
Yeah.
Finally picked up the Jhin near the end, but it's still going to be a really high priority pick. So we can see the Ashe coming through here for Breaker.
Yeah, and I gotta
taking
say,
that one. So we'll see what Immortals want to run to try to counter that one. The Varus from Lex was doing a pretty good job. Got away with that really greedy build with the Tier and the Cull.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if that's something that's in Cody Sun's wheelhouse.
I don't know. It was weird that he picked up Varus because the Varus buffs came in at 624 and actually made him like a really strong AD carry. Now, to be fair, I guess like the Varus buffs were all around like the attack speed centric like Hurricane builds, which is not what he went for. So
yeah,
I don't know. Just kind of interesting. Jhin actually still a big winner. Rek'Sai great as well.
Okay.
I'm still surprised to see Jhin picked up. You still have these great top laners like Poppy, Nautilus, and Maokai, which yes, you can trade back and forth somewhat, but like Zyra's up and Karma's up as two really high priority supports, which I think are two of the very, very strongest, whereas Jhin is not contested really in any meaningful way, and there's kind of letting J-Team pick whatever sort of S tiers they want left over.
Yeah, it's also interesting because at least as far as the LCK is concerned, whenever we see the Jhin come in, because it's a really high priority pick this last season, you see the Jhin come in, the Ashe is usually the answering pick because as soon as you see that curtain call come up, you just fire off the enchanted crystalline arrow, you know exactly where he's at, you just follow the cone, and then you interrupt it, maybe he gets a shot or two off, but you interrupt it. So it's interesting to see that they want to bring that out. It's got to be a really big confident pick for Cody Sun, for Immortals in general, so you have to think that this is probably something that they've been running in their comps during their scripts while they've been in Korea. But Victor and Maokai going to be picked up for J-Team, so going really stable. This is like a little reminiscent of Samsung. Maybe they just didn't...
Are we sure Samsung got out of the booth? Or?
Maybe they didn't prepare, and they're just like,
I mean, they
pick
all
whatever
look
Samsung
different.
got.
Yeah, right. I mean, and to be fair, that doesn't have to be a bad idea. Again, I'm purely speaking as complete speculation, but if J-Team weren't necessarily practicing a whole lot, and they weren't taking the time off, and they hadn't really gone back into the game as heavy team practice just yet, then, well, if we copy the team comp from one of the very best teams in the world, we know Samsung are great, then, hey, maybe that works out okay. Or they're just both correct in that these are the best champions in the game, and that can obviously be true as well.
Well, that's just going to come down to the execution, perhaps, then, because Samsung's was a little bit lackluster. We'll see if J-Team can have some better performances here with these champions. We'll find out how Fofo fares on this Victor. But going back over to Immortals, so still going to be seeing some similar matchups. The Poppy going into the Maokai in the top lane, the Orianna in mid for Pole Belter. So big dive potential with the Poppy and the Rek'Sai for the the ball delivery system on that Shockwave. So Immortals do have a lot of tools set up for them.
Yeah, this all looks very good. Honestly, we have exactly one new champion so far in the draft. 7 picks in, no big deal. But, I mean, these are strong champions, and I think no one's really surprised. With Twitch off the table, Vayne is just sometimes a little bit risky. She's a weaker laner. We know mage supports are very common, and a champion like a Zyra or a Karma can definitely beat up onto a Vayne. And in fact, with the support not showing, for example, Karma W is a hard reveal. You can't invisibility through that. You stay shown. Spooky goes through the same thing. It's a hard reveal effect. So in more coordinated games where people are going to pick the right counter picks, Vayne can be very, very scary to bring out. Of course, we're not seeing it here. The final picks come through, and actually Graves jungle plus his Zyra support. As we contrast to the previous games, of course, we knew Zyra was banned in the previous one, but Graves coming into the jungle is going to be pretty interesting. No Olaf here that we had seen from Samsung's jungler ambition. Graves going to be a lot of damage, and it's relying on the Maokai to be the big tank.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting seeing the Graves coming back into the jungle. It hasn't been really that high of a priority pick for quite some time now. Definitely moving away from those big tanky junglers that we've been seeing, or even something like the Lee Sin that has that hard CC like the Dragon's Rage. So Graves is going to be lacking that. But if you can get rolling early on, could be pretty crushing. As you jump in the face of that Jhin, you can just absolutely blow him up with the collateral damage and an end of the line.
Right, and the thing is about Graves in this composition, I don't think they need more damage. I feel like Zyra, Ashe, and Victor are going to cover that just plenty. You could have gone for something tankier, and you'd be able to survive your team fights just fine with 3 damage dealers. But the nice thing about picking up Graves is he's got really good gank assist in all his various lanes. It's very easy to gank for a Maokai, just drop the Q on top of his root. Ashe, Zyra, plenty of crowd control as well. So he's just able to bring out the damage here, Achi, and, you know, like, this is a good comp. Like, even though I say they don't need more damage, the lanes are still good for getting Graves in there for the damage up. I think that's going to work pretty well. Meanwhile, Ollie going to get himself his Bard, and I got to talk to Immortals very briefly about, you know, hey, how do you feel about your new teammates? You know, how much you played together? And Dardoch was the one to talk up, and he's like, yeah, you know, Bard was one of the champions he mentioned by name for his support here. So something he should be very, very good at, something he should be very comfortable with. And in general, I think Bard Jhin has so much potential threat here in the lane. You've got so much hard ground control you can lock up and layer together. The Dardoch's Rek'Sai can do the same thing. So I like the Immortals comp overall. It's a lot of utility, a lot of damage.
Yep. Well, Ole on the Bard should be good. Saw him flash the Thresh, thought maybe that was something that he was going to bring out. It's a really kind of old pick for him. I've seen him work some magic on that one, but going back to the Bard, I mean, still a lot of pick potential. You have the Jhin to slow people with the curtain call. You've got that Tempered Fate coming up from the Bard for, you know, AoE control. So there's a lot of good stuff going on for both of these squads across the board. J-Team looks like they just need to get ahead early with that Graves in the jungle. So if you can't, you know, start doing damage, then they're just going to fall to the wayside. But let's go ahead and load in to Game 2, Immortals versus J-Team. All right, welcome to Summoner's Rift. Here we are. J-Team over on the blue side versus Immortals on the red. A first showing for both of these squads since they have shuffled up their rosters. It'll be interesting to see how this one's going to play out. Loser of this match will have to play against the Vega Squadron. And the loser of that will be eliminated.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, we're going to figure out which 2 teams are making the semifinals from this group today and which 2 teams are going home. We're going to play all of this group. This will be the last of the best of ones. Every match after this one should be a best of 3, whether it sends you home or into the playoffs.
Well, definitely going to be hoping that it's the latter on that.
Yeah.
I would expect.
Of course, we know Samsung's going to be a difficult opponent regardless, but
maybe not if they play in the state that they played Game 1 in.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because thinking about Vega Squadron a little bit, and again, you're right that it didn't look great from Samsung. Okay, they pulled it out. Vega Squadron as a team was always a bit better early game and then kind of fell off. They just had kind of bad shot calling the mid to late, and that formula kind of continued.
Yeah. But
what I found kind of interesting, and just in general watching League of Legends for the past 2 months, Worlds being a very sort of standout example, the whole gap is closing meme kind of played out. The reason being that early and mid game has probably been the closest it's been internationally in a very long time.
Sure.
Just in the general sense, you had, you know, G2, who had a very bad World showing, had like a 12,000 gold lead over ROX Tigers in the group stage, and okay, ROX weren't playing supremely well at that point in time, but like, you had a lot of these teams who were able to have very compelling and good early to mid games, even when they're the underdogs, and it feels like that part of League of Legends has gotten a lot closer. And even if you're a considered weaker team, but you're good at early to mid game, you can actually win early to mid game against top tier, even top tier Korean teams in general. And that feels like that's actually been kind of true as of essentially almost all of 2016. MSI felt like it was kind of similar as well, where you had teams like Flash Wolves 2-0ing SKT during group stage, things like that. It feels like parts of the game are getting closer skilled together, that the individual laning prowess of people is getting much closer. For example, the previous game we just saw, Lex went equal in farm to Ruler, and it's not like Ruler's like the best laning AD carry of all time, but it's like you've got the LCL runner-up against the World Championship runner-up, and you went equal in lane.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, but that means you guys are pretty similarly skilled as far as laning phase is concerned.
Yeah, it was a really strong performance overall from pretty much everybody on Vega. But I mean, like you said, you hit that late game point, it comes down to all about the decision making. And while they had some really good plays, like stopping that Baron from being taken by Samsung, pushing them off, still getting the tier 2 tower in mid, and really just transitioning things. It's just you hit that point where you've taken most of the objectives on the map that are outside of the base, and then it becomes really difficult because you really have to be careful about where you go because you don't want to. It hits that point where it's like if we all die, the game is over.
Yeah, absolutely. And that part of the game is still very, very hard. And Samsung deserved to win that game because they were the better team. Their late-game shot calling was clearly superior. But we are now into the game itself. Let's start talking about the things that are happening here. So, of course, very normal lanes. Interestingly enough, both junglers are starting top-side jungle. I think this favors Dardoch somewhat. Now, it's pretty easy to tell that, yes, both top laners leash, so it's pretty easy to track both these junglers. Graves doing the obvious path of blue into Gromp, and Rek'Sai doing the obvious path of red buff into Krugs. But again, we're 623. He's going to get level 3 off those Krugs, and if Flame can get level 2, you see, Warning already went down to ward the top river.
Yeah.
He is acutely aware of the fact that Dardoch could jump him very, very quickly, and Flame can say, hey, that got warded, he put his trinket down, don't bother.
Yeah, and that's going to be the only guaranteed CC, really, that Immortals has to set up for Dardoch ganking in, because the bot lane, you have that Cosmic Binding, but you have to land the shot.
Yeah.
So there's not a whole lot of guaranteed CC for Dardoch to really follow up on. Looks like he is going to go ahead, skip the Raptors, and head straight down the river towards this Scuttle Crab. Jay's roaming up. Going to start throwing these plants out and get some vision, so Dardoch's just going to go ahead, peel off of that, and move over to his own Gromp.
This is still not the best ward by Jay. I would have loved to see him get it over the wall onto the Gromp itself. I think the Hawk Shot actually missed as well, so Breaker learned Hawk Shot at level 2, tried to find where Dardoch was and couldn't quite spot him. But either way, it actually gives Dardoch still a little bit of freedom, except that now Hachi's here to really try to be annoying about this one. Both have Smite at the same time. And the question is, yeah, with all the lane pushing going on, it's actually J-Team able to reinforce with Jay. They can try to push back Ole. Smite fight's going to be close. I think it's going to still come down to a Smite fight regardless.
Well, it's drawing back into the brush. Dardoch,
nice.
He will get it in the end, so nice little takeaway there. Ole just trying to support where he can get those Cosmic Bindings in, but Dardoch, known to be very good for his smiting and his aggression. He's able to stick in there, and he gets that blue buff in the end, so it's going to be a nice keep for him. Give him a level advantage, and overall, Achi is just going to ultimately make him fall behind because he spends so much time in the enemy jungle there and doesn't net anything for it.
No, absolutely agree. It's going to be a camp and a bit disadvantage for Achi here in the J-Team jungle, and honestly, Rek'Sai is one of those champions who are very good at securing their own buffs because of the damage after the E, and now Dardoch going for the mid lane gank, forcing the Ghost out of Fofo.
Yep, popping that one actually to go on the aggressive against Pobelter. Didn't even see Dardoch before he had popped that, but has that up so he could just jet his way out. So he'll be safe for now, but Summoner Spell down, so we'll give a little bit of an edge to Pobelter, but we can see Fofo is still pretty adequately winning these trades at the moment. It's only going to get harder as he gets those Hex Core upgrades.
Yeah, Fofo's doing an amazing job here in this mid lane, honestly pushing down Pobelter. Pobelter does not have teleport, so if he can't get the lane in a good spot for when he recalls, he's going to lose an entire wave to Fofo shoving.
Yeah.
The Victor having control is a huge deal. He wants that 1250 and change recall mark so that he can get himself the upgraded Hex Core and then something else. Pobelter had to push in on the cannon wave, which means it's going to be very easy for Fofo to shove in the very next wave. He might even pull Achi to do it a bit faster, and it should. Either Pobelter gets the lane frozen on him and he loses a wave that way, or Fofo hard pushes and Pobelter loses a wave the other way.
Yeah, so going to be a rough start there, and you can see Pobelter coming back in. It's just going to be a double Doran's plus the boots pickup for him, so not having enough to get something like the Lost Chapter coming through for that Orianna, so it's going to be a little bit harmful for him as we move forward, and then back coming through from Fofo, and looks like he's actually just going to replicate that one, picking up the control ward as well.
Yeah.
So both of these guys going to be moving in a similar direction, but so far J-Team just going to be up by a couple hundred gold. You can see the Immortals bot lane, they're really getting pushed in and harassed out pretty heavily, and a 9 CS lead coming in for Breaker. is not looking good for Cody Sun.
No, it's really good. This is definitely well played by J-Team. Sure, they are advantaged in the matchup. They should be able to push in. They should be able to get this harass down. And, they're doing a very good job of that. Well played, playing the lane the way it's supposed to be done. But some of that is the matchup on top of player skill doing well. I got to commend Povelto for his play. Yes, he's very far behind in lane. He took the least bad option, which was shove and recall before the 1250 gold mark for Fofo. Force him to recall to match, but now a fight in the bot lane.
Dardoch coming down into the bot lane. They're going to get the root off that deadly flourish. Jay going low. Dardoch really hungry for this first blood, but the heal from Breaker is enough to keep the Zyra alive, and now Dardoch has to back off as Achi did arrive running down the river, so no first blood going to be coming in yet. And that was both summoners burned out there by Ole.
4 for 2 on summoners, though. It's a very good gank, and it's a low escape bot lane. J-Team can't really hard push that wave anymore. They can no longer play the matchup the way they want to. Fofo just taking some damage. I don't think it's going to quite force the recall out. Yeah, not with that damage on a Povelto there.
Yeah, he's going to throw that Chaos Storm out, clear out the wave.
Okay, it does.
Won't get much under the Orianna, but yeah, he does have to back off. Low on mana, low on HP.
Okay.
Not a good spot to be in. Already used both of those refillable potion charges as well.
There's a repeat gank.
Yeah, Ole coming down. Doesn't have the flash to try to close the distance. Dardoch is there, but he's going to flash, gets the double knock-up, deadly flourish in on the Breaker. Jay's going to go down. First kill, a double kill actually for Cody Sun. Wasn't sure if he was going to get that off the grenade, but he does. And that is going to be a nice start here for Immortals. 900 gold in the lead at the moment, and a really good way to just jumpstart that Jhin.
Beautifully done, and J-Team actually pushed that wave up. You saw that there were still minions left from their wave, that there weren't any from Immortals. It's a Bard and a Rek'Sai. That is one of the easiest things to bring in your life against no flash, no escape bot lane. Disrespectful by J-Team. And hey, good job by Dardoch making the repeat gank really quickly. Very well played by him to make that happen.
Yeah, just beautiful flash knock up there, and then the Cosmic Binding to follow. So all of the CC that they needed to really solidify that one, and the fact that Cody Sun was able to get both of those kills is going to be really strong for him because he's coming back into lane with the Boots of Swiftness and that BF sword. So he's going to be in a pretty good spot. Breaker as well has the BF sword, but not going to have that added mobility. So Cody is going to be able to zip around a little bit, maybe dodge out those Ash arrows as we move forward through this lane.
Yeah, we're tracking Ole now playing the warding game. It's always very smart. As soon as you get your Sightstone on support, roam around the map, get as many good deep wards as you can. Usually it is an interesting timing because when both supports pick up Sightstone, they're both picking up Red Trinket. And Red Trinket goes on a mandatory 2-minute cooldown when you buy it. So essentially, the enemy support cannot sweep your wards for 2 minutes, and you run around, and any wards you put down are not going away. They have to pink ward them or control ward them as the state is right now. So you kind of get that vision to stick for quite a while, and it lets you track your opponents. And you saw kind of Ole do it first and put his deep wards in, and it'll help track what's going on. You just saw a blue ping right there. It's J-Team saying, hey, this got warded, by the way. You've got to sweep that away. And you see Achi puts down the control ward to do that. So there's the requirement. Has to put down that 75 gold ward.
Yep. Have to start being worried about that Infernal Drake if you're J-Team. Dardoch already getting to a pretty hefty spot, has that Bombing Cinder coming in, getting ready to complete his Tracker's Knife with it. And, soloing out that dragon is not going to be something very difficult for this Rek'Sai. So, you see one ward sitting in the pit there for J-Team. They get one into the River Brush as well, so just going to try to maintain contested vision of that area, but the blue buff handoff comes over to Povelto, so he's going to be in a pretty good spot. Just hasn't amped Tome at the moment, hasn't been able to build into much, but now he's going to be able to match that push potential from Fofo, who went for really early Boots of Lucidity.
Well, it's just been unfortunate for Fofo. He's been actually, even though he was winning in farm, and he still is, Povelto is on sort of a theoretical level, played the matchup better in that, again, he forced Fofo on a matched recall before 1250 gold. He traded the Shockwave to force Fofo back again, and he has to spend money once again. And so Fofo's still sitting here without upgrading his E, and he no longer has the wave clear power. Very, very rarely will you ever have a 10-minute victor without a Mark 1 hex core or a Mark 2 hex core. So, really actually pretty rough stuff for Fofo. He no longer has the wave clear that he's supposed to have this stage of the game. And, I mean, how many games has he really played where he's been denied the access to that kind of good wave clear?
Yeah, probably not too many. Being in that spot there is never good when you have to go for the Lucidity Boots before you get one Hex Core upgrade. Yeah. So it's a little bit rough. Achi clearing out those Krugs, doesn't finish some of those tiny ones.
Yeah, he's trying to hug the bot lane because he knows Flash is still down for a few more seconds from most of his bot lane, and he was like, if Dardoch tries to repeat gank one more time, because we lost track of him, I want to be close to match. Flash is back up now, so that crisis has been somewhat averted, but now maybe they can find themselves the lane gank.
Yeah, does he want to stick around is the question. The Tempered Fate is there for Ole now as he is level 7. So he could always just throw that out, stop the gank in its tracks. You see Achi is having some hesitation as far as recalling goes. That ward's going to come out. Oh, that's going to be the Ash Arrow in. Ole taking a huge burst of damage. Flashes away, gets knocked up by the Strangle Thorns, and Breaker flashes forward to get the final auto attack. Will put one on the board for J-Team. Nice kill coming through, but now the curtain call's opened up. Jay,
coming.
Yeah, the healthiest member is going to have to block all these shots. Achi takes the last one. Dardoch coming in, the Praise Seeker not going to hit. Pobelter's roaming in. Do they want to dive as one? The answer is yes. Big Shockwave comes in, only going to find Breaker. Gets rooted down by that Deadly Flourish, and Pobelter is able to finish him off with the Command Dissonance. So that is still going to be a kill picked up for Immortals. 1-for-1 trade. Wow,
what a huge deal that Pobelter was actually unlocked to roam around the lane. Only just now does Fofo finally have the upgraded Augment. And honestly, so much was cool here. That bait was sick. He puts the board on to make Ole auto attack instead of go for the arrow. He saw him sweep it and said, I can bait him into autoing. That setup was absolutely amazing. Breaker didn't have to flash. He was actually already winding up the auto attack, so a small misplay there. But either way, it wasn't him who died. It was sadly his support who got chunked out. And we see in the back half of that, Fofo once again pushed out by Pobelter. Yeah,
Dardoch is well there for a little bit of a gank, but they're not able to get the kill. You know, Pobelter had to expand pretty much everything in that bottom lane to get the kill onto Breaker, the Flash, and Ghost, as well as the Shockwave use. But now, you know, as mentioned, Dardoch going for this Dragon. Could solo this out. Looks like it's going to be a little bit of help coming through from Ole, however. Jay runs over, does ward this, but the likelihood of a steal is just so slim. And there it is, Dardoch. He's got the Smite on point. Looks like we're actually going to get 2 Infernal Drakes in a row.
All right, and Infernal Drake is definitely one of the best ones to have once you've got a gold lead. It basically just cements your stat advantage. Seems to be sort of the reason why it's been so good. So going to be a really nice thing here for Immortals, absolutely. Tons of stats for these guys. Achi making the best play he can, which is trying to steal away the red buff, and knowing that Dardoch was on the bot side of the map. Dardoch making a beeline there, and it's going to be tight.
Yep, throws the Praise Seeker just
Dardoch
reflexively.
Achi could actually fight for this.
Oh, but he's just going to take the Blasting Cone out.
Yeah. He actually has one charge on his item as well. Honestly, he could have warded that buff, warded that brush, and basically called Dardoch's bluff and said, you don't have 2 Smite charges, you used 1 on Dragon, and he would have gotten to take it away. So, unfortunately, Achi was a little bit gun-shy there, but hey, it's the safer choice to make sure you don't get killed up by Pobelter's roaming. I can't say it's objectively wrong, but it would have paid off if you played more riskily.
Yeah, the net loss is really just going to be his time spent, and you know that's the second time that's really happened for him going for these buffs. So he's just falling further and further behind. Now 20 CS up for Dardoch. He's just in a really good spot. Has that additional assist, but that's going to be the Tempered Fate used onto Breaker, causing Fighting to slow him up, and the curtain call's opened up. Dardoch, meanwhile, is just going to be 1v1ing Jay in the river. Flame TPing down for bot lane. Says, you know what, I haven't been doing a whole lot of anything, guys. Let me get a kill. So it looks like they're going to try to hand this one off. There it is. Gets him with a heroic charge. Yep. And 3 kills picked up as Pobelter is able to get Fofo. So it looks like we might have a replay on that one.
As soon as Jay leaves the lane, the Dardoch come on down for this one, and just every single shot from Cody's Sun lands here. So we watch Pobelter just land the Shockwave, and it's just too much damage for him to deal with.
And then you just run him down.
Yep. That's gold leads for you. You just do that much damage sometimes.
All right. Well, solid pickups here for Immortals. Really moving forward to this game, and it's going to be first brick gold going over as well as they finish out that tier 2. And now look at that, Achi also died, so maybe we'll get a replay of his death.
Oh, geez, yeah, I missed that one entirely, but this is immediately evaporating right now for J-Team. Achi getting outmatched by Dardoch, absolutely out-farmed, out-ganked, out-controlled, out-everything. And the mid lane as well, but Pobelter doing a good job of the matchup. Now Dardoch's got to win this fight, and there's the Smite.
Yeah, Smite, tunnels out.
All right, that wasn't exactly too hard. I made it more exciting than it should have been. It's a support Zyra. I wonder if he can out-smite him. Oh, he did.
Got away with murder, but all right, so we'll take a look at this. So Achi he was just trying to clear the wave, man. Come on, Dardoch.
That's still really well played. The flash and a knock-up. The EW from Pobelter is actually the right combo to go for. Of course, Pobelter knows this. He's, 18 times the Orianna IEM, but for those out there who just realize that basically Q's range is the shortest range of all of Orianna's abilities, and if you instead just shield W, you can get guaranteed damage output with no skill shots required as long as your tank is engaging for you. You can Q afterwards if you need to. So, smart by Pobelter to do the right abilities. And for any of you watching at home, when you've got a Rek'Sai flashing on people, EW is the right opening combo.
Who would have thought? Pobelter is pretty good at League of Legends.
Shocking that.
Never would have expected that one, but looks like Morning is going to get a chunk of the action. Natural Journey coming through. He has to throw up the Maelstrom to try to keep himself alive. don't know if they can get the catch. Dardoch doesn't have the flash, but oh, there we go. That's going to be the Tempered Fate. Pobelter's here for good measure. He's going to dash forward. Gets a good chunk of damage in onto that Orianna, but in the end, he does go down. It's another kill on the board now for Pobelter. 4-0, 8-1 overall, as Immortals are really starting to run away with this game. 4,000 gold in the lead.
Look how tanky Flame is. Immortals are going for the pretty standard mid-game lane swap. If your bot lane kills the turret, swap your bot lane to the top lane and go for the top lane one as well. And then ask how good is your top laner holding the 1v3. Achi, smart to come down to the bottom lane. Now, ultimately, it's still Immortals just trading turrets back and forth. They're actually a bit slower on the trade overall, it looks like. Not going to be a huge problem. They're going to get it back regardless. But you kind of saw Flame able to withstand a lot of that punishment. And now, once again, Pobelter, good flash.
Yeah, just styling on him. Tries to go in for the kill, but Fofo just can't get it. Pobelter going to flash out of that Chaos Storm, goes into his face, and takes him out yet again. Oof. Having more than 50% of the kills on his team at the moment.
Yeah, he's doing massively. 5-0-0 is a beautiful scoreline. The one returning member of Immortals, Pobelter. It's great because one of the great stats I liked from North American LCS last split was every mid laner in the North American LCS was Korean, Danish, or Pobelter. And Pobelter continuing to be excellent, essentially true. I don't want to say true American. That feels wrong to say. Like I don't mean it that way, but you know, I believe American-born. I'm pretty certain he is. American-born mid laner doing very well for himself. And yeah, honestly crushing. And what could otherwise be a very close game. Yeah, his actual contributions were really big here.
Yeah, this is a performance on Orianna that Toys would be proud of if Toys had remained with TPA and then turned into J-Team.
Yep. Hong Kong esports for him, but you had the jersey earlier.
Yep.
And he threw it down.
Because that time is over for Ole.
That's true.
Actually, I wonder what's happening with that team. I haven't really followed up on much of the LMS happenings this season.
Yeah, me either.
So I'll definitely have to check that out before the split starts, but maybe there's some interesting roster shuffles going on. I know Flash Wolves are pretty just all sticking together, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is always nice to see. I think CLG, that's similar, and TSM, they get an old player back. So, you know, a lot of these teams sticking together, and I always like that. Roster moves are always exciting and interesting. They're always very fun to look at and be a part of, but I always appreciate teams that stick together year over year.
Sure, that's why, you know, I was really excited for Samsung, you know, coming into this, but still just a little bit shaky, but I have the utmost confidence that they will get themselves together before the split starts. Maybe even before the end of this day.
Yeah, well, they're waiting in the winners match for what looks to be Immortals, which I believe would be the next match. I believe it's winners, then losers, then decider.
Yes, I think you are correct.
Yeah, because I am casting the match after next, which is losers with Officio.
Okay,
so.
and I'm casting the match that is next with Papa Smithy again.
Exactly. All right, well,
just gonna keep it rolling.
Gang.
Oh, Ole, yeah, going really aggressive, throws down that Tempered Fate onto himself, keeps him alive. Dardoch wrapping around the back. Ole might go down for this, but no, the shield is there from Pobel to keep him alive. Dardoch gonna get exhausted in the front lines. Goes back in, but he's gonna get locked up and taken down. Popo able to finish him off, so just biting off a little bit more than they could chew. There's a little bit of a scattered engage there. Ole going in by himself. Dardoch not immediately able to follow up, and they get punished for it. So the second kill for J-Team on the board, but still they got a ways to go before they are in range of, you know, winning this match.
Absolutely agree. So, yeah, 4,500 gold deficit. Definitely not insurmountable. I mean, it's big, but not so insane that you couldn't make the comeback. But here we go. We watched the over-aggressive dive from Ole, and really, I don't think they had a lot of business going for this fight. Pobelter isn't even here yet. He's pretty much just going to match when Fofo shows up. Like, I don't know. This felt a little bit too greedy. Good defense by J-Team overall, but the thing is, Immortals are the winning team. They're the one who gets to set the pace, who get to choose almost all of the fights. They chose a bad fight, and I think that was a pretty big mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely really over-aggressive from them. And I kind of wish it was kind of just off camera, but Dardoch, instead of walking straight down to Breaker, who is locked up by that Tempered Fate, walked in toward Achi and Morning, around the Krugs towards the Tier 2 tower, and I think that if he had maybe just done a beeline straight for the Ashe, maybe they would have been able to get that kill.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe that fight could have gone a little bit differently, but didn't really get to see what caught his eye and what drove him the other way around.
Yeah, they definitely would have had a decent chance of it. I mean, it's a cool comp what they're going for. It's a fair bit of long-range engage. You know, like Bard and Rek'Sai are both good at getting in on their targets, and of course Jhin can snipe from afar, so you know, the right play for them to make is things like this, just not so aggressively that they get their support caught out for doing it. Either way, though, Immortals clearly in the driver's seat here. Double Infernal Drake, definitely nice to have. The gold lead still staying at that, you know, roughly 5,000 mark. So would require a lot for J-Team to get through this, but they've got their own pick potential, right? You've got lockdown, hard lockdown from 4 of the 5 members of the team, plenty of damage output from 4 of the 5 members of the team as well. So one good Asher or one good Zyra bind, things like that, one good TP flank from Morning, or even just a flash engage, you can pick people off, and Immortals must be respectful with very few escape tools on their team.
Yeah. Morning still does have to be careful, though. Doesn't have any MR aside for the Mercury boots. So he will absolutely get shredded by Pobolter. But speaking of getting shredded, that's going to be Breaker going down. Dies before the bullet can even connect from the Jin. And now
next.
Fofo, oh boy. Gets locked up by the Tempered Fate, straight into the Cosmic Binding. Ole just chaining it together beautifully.
Wow.
And Achi will fall as well. Belter picking that up. So 3 kills just like that. Have a botched engage. Immortals is like, let's make up for that one.
Yep.
That was a little bit of a bad look by them, but they make up for it in the end, get 3 kills, and now are looking for that Baron. And you can see the remaining members of J-Team, Morning and Jay, not even going to bother walking over towards that Baron pin.
No, this is some good stuff right there. There we go. Baron goes down. Really good call overall as well. Like, so we got to watch this fight again, and it's so great. Prey Seeker into Deadly Flourish is just squishies are guaranteed to die when that happens, and that one slow is enough for the bind. And yeah, this is just perfect play by Ole, right? Perfect timing on the binding right there. That's a kill pickup. And then Flame practically solos Achi. Only now does Pobolter come to help and essentially steals the kill away. Really, really nice flank by Flame to find the Screech target in the back line. And yep, with 3 dead, the instant call to go for Baron. No one was confused about what that call was. It was the right one to go for. Immortals very clean in that whole thing.
Yeah. And they're looking good. I mean, you know, we talked so much while we were getting ready to get into the game, like how was the synergy going to be on the squad? And it seems like it's working out really well. Flame coming in with these, you know, these teleports and these flank plays. It's been on point, and he knows exactly which, you know, targets he has to go for. And just the CC chaining in general has been really strong from the side of Immortals. Dardoch going to go back in for the engage. Curtain opened up, but there's the arrow to interrupt Cody-san, who's now really far away from the fight. But there's a huge shockwave completely going to melt out Achi. Take him out of the fight. Morning has to flash away again, taking so much damage from that Orianna, not having MR. And Breaker almost goes down. The Prey Seeker wouldn't be enough to finish him off, but he still has to go back to the fountain. There's no wave clear that can get rid of these Baron-empowered minions. So that's a tier 2 tower going down in favor of Immortals. Meanwhile, Flame, he's just taking the bottom one all by himself.
Yeah, and this just doesn't matter. There's really nothing that J-Team can do about this. Immortals with the Baron buff, splitting up the 4-1 is actually really appropriate and really smart when you've already killed the jungler off. 4v4 mid lane is easy, and you let Flame get your team 1 extra turret just to make sure it all lines up conveniently. Only 1 minute left in the next Drake. That'll be another pickup once they reset on the map. And yeah, it seems like Immortals, with their ultimates down, have nothing else to do but reset. And so, really nicely, they kind of greedily but intelligently so take away as much of the jungle as they can. They kill off some wards, and actually, ooh, good job by Jay getting those wards back down, because that could have been a very easy sort of assassination flank attempt if those wards weren't there. Yeah,
because they still have the Tempered Fate, didn't have to use that in the last engage. We saw that one out. Flame going to be a very tanky Poppy up in that front line. Not going to take a whole lot of damage. They are able to find Fofo, open up with the curtain call. Trigger's Verdict will eject Morning. They try to zone them away from this turret, down to half HP, a couple more hits. We'll burn that one through, but they can't push up. Cody-san gets taken low. Pobolter at about half HP. And Immortals to say, okay, you know what? We don't want to overstay.
Yeah.
We don't want to get ace. They'll go ahead, peel back, likely get ready for that dragon that's about to spawn.
It actually felt like that shot call was a bit of an overstay, though. You know all of J-Team had just respawned. You knew Achi was back, and J-Team were in their own base. They had full health and mana bars. I don't know. I honestly didn't like the fact that Immortals was going for that bot lane inhibitor turret push, because even the engage they went for with Tempered Fate didn't really look all that special either. Either way, of course, they are not punished. No kills did get to come through for J-Team, and either way, they're able to reset, keep the map control, and get this Mountain Drake regardless. So no punish for what was maybe a very minor misplay, if it even is one. But regardless, Immortals are back on the map, back with control. Flame does have teleport, so of course it's time for the 4-1 split push yet again. Put the strong members of your team near the easy-to-kill inhibitor turret that's very, very low. Let Flame collect all the minions and pressure that top lane tier 2. Very sort of by-the-book smart shot calling. It's just generally intelligent, and here they are for the push.
Yeah, and Jay's team, they're just not fast enough to get down here. They had Fofo and Achi up in the top side of the jungle, and I mean, Fofo has to be there for the wave clear, so they can't clear out these what were then Baron-empowered minions. Now the Baron buff has expired. Inhibitor almost going down a couple more shots, but this just gives Flame more time to knock down that final tier 2 tower and top. So Immortals are just winning on all fronts, unless something drastic happens in this bottom lane in favor of J-Team. Immortals are pretty much just slated to win this game in the next couple minutes.
Yeah, they can just kind of ride the game out and play it sort of by the book, and they should be able to close it out. Here comes the play. Arrow's going to land a with a great target for that one.
Yeah, that's going to be the coming down. He is going to fall. Zyra finds the killing blow on the end of that one, but Kirkcall not doing a whole lot to Fofo, works him down to about 60%. And Immortals, they lose Bowbelter, and that's going to stop their pushing power for the most part.
That's the kind of thing that J-Team needed. Sadly for them, there's no neutral objectives up to take. There's no Dragon, of course, it's already gone. Baron's still about 3 minutes away from respawning, so sadly, the reward for killing the opposing mid laner was losing top lane tier 2. J-Team, they need to be daring right now and take as much of the map back as they can, and yet here's Cody Sun able just to grab the opposing red buff and then steal through the bot lane wave. This is the power of minion waves right here. J-Team can't even leave their base because the mid inhib already going down before, that they kill the 7-0 Orianna and still lose the map.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge burst of shutdown gold to come through, but it goes on to your support player, which is not where you want that allocated at all. If that had gone over to Breaker, would have helped him out a lot, because right now he's a 1-item Ashe, only has the Zeal and 2 daggers in the inventory as he works towards that Hurricane. And I mean, you're looking at, you know, a 3-item mid laner, a 2-item, almost 3-item 80 carry, and it's just the gold is not there, and having that go over to Jay is just almost more harmful for J-Team.
Yeah, and he's not going Sword Truce as well, so it's even less damage than he would be getting out otherwise with a different build. So yeah, took the 300 gold kill credit, unlucky there. At least the shutdown is shared. That's a nice change. So everyone gets to partake in that one as of, you know, Season 5, but yeah, 12,000 gold lead. Immortals still heavily in the driver's seat. And, you know, they just have to close the game out in the next 2 minutes or so. I think they're very likely to. In the meantime, J-Team gets to continue to absorb minions, and the pleasant silver lining for the inhibitor going down is there's more minions to kill, and they tend to kill your own minion waves, so there's less gold going into Immortals' pockets, but we're likely to see the attempt at a game-winning push with a 5-man top lane. You're seeing Flame roam up right now, and this is the play that Immortals going to try to take to win the game.
Yeah, recall coming through still from Morning. He'll have speed up here, the home guards, as he zips his way back in, but Immortals are already set up. The gravity field's been used. At least burned through the wave, so Immortals has to stick around and wait for that next one to roam in, but the super creeps are coming down into that bottom lane, getting ready to crash into the base. It as well, so this is do or die time for J-Team. Kind of have to go for, you know, the Hail Mary if they want to win this.
There's 2 time bombs. One is the double minion waves coming in from mid and bot. The other is the 30-second respawn on Baron Nashor. As long as Immortals don't play too stupidly and don't push too hard and dive the turret when they don't need to, although they're going to, hoping to just play.
Oh, well, Dardoch goes in. That's going to be the Temper Fate, keeping him safe for now. Breaker taking these shots from the Jhin, getting the last one. No, Fobo is able to block it, but here comes Flame from the sidelines, taking out the Ashe. Hachi dashing away, doing his damnedest to stay alive. Looks like he will be able to, but that's the last turret going down in front of these inhibitors, and now the mid gonna fall again, as well as top. 3 inhibitors will be down for J-Team. And without their ADC, this is looking like Immortals possibly winning the game before the 30-minute mark.
Looks like it 14-3. The kills make that 15 on to the Nexus.
Hachi gonna get melted. Morning following suit. Jay and Fobo desperately trying to run back to the fountain. Looks like they will be able to make it, but not to much avail. They can't do anything to stop Immortals from knocking down these Nexus turrets and from knocking down the Nexus itself. That's going to be game 2 going over to Immortals. They will go ahead and they'll have to face off against Samsung in our winners match later on, but coming up next, it will be J-Team versus Vegas Squadron.
Oh, loser match is next. Okay.
I believe so.
Okay. Either way, it's going to be best of 3s now for the rest of the day. We're going to decide who goes home, who makes the playoffs, and then also decider afterwards. Yeah, the schedule I got, I thought winners was next up. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's going to be great best of 3s coming at you very soon. Now, Immortals looked good, honestly, for a very, very recently put together team. I see largely they made some good choices. The team looked on the same page, which is always the biggest question mark, is are they doing the same things together? All the calls, when they were made, did look crisp. If you want to debate the quality of the calls, you can do that. They were mostly good, but maybe some wrong ones, but they were on the same page when they went for something. That's a good first sign for Immortals.
Yeah. Well, first off, you were correct. It is the winners match next. So we will get to see Immortals versus Samsung in our next matchup. Then, as you mentioned, that will be a best of 3. But taking a look at the damage dealt there, Zyra did 13,000 damage, Ashe did 7.8.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty poor showing from J-Team. Now they have to prepare to go up against Vegas Squadron, who again looked really strong in that early game. So unless J-Team can correct their mistakes and get a lead early, I don't know if they're going to be able to make it out of this group stage.
Yeah, it makes me question, and I'm sorry for not knowing this answer, but I don't have it. Why Breaker is playing instead of BB right here?
But I don't know. Maybe we'll see him in the next game. We're going to go to a break, guys. We'll come back, and we'll have our first best of 3 of the day.